Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fall of the Scribe podcast. I have with me another very special guest, an artist who goes by the name Jim Harris. He is from Boston, Massachusetts, originally, but now you reside in Japan, if I'm correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay. So, how are you, Jim?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah. I'm very honored to have you on my podcast,
I'm
getting the
honored to be here.
chance. Yes, arigato. Uh, and
Dotashi.
how, how are dozo yoroshiku. Arigato. Uh, and so, can you talk a little bit about yourself before we begin?
Okay, basically, I grew up in the New England area, suburbs of Boston, about 40 miles south of Boston, in a place called Duxbury, Massachusetts, basically a bedroom community for people who work in Boston. I went to school in Boston. I went to the School of Museum of Fine Arts, which was a great experience for me. After that, I moved to New York City and lived in New York for about 20 years, which was good for lots of art galleries and museums. So it was a great place. I didn't do much art there because I was just too busy paying the rent, basically. Um, I met my wife, who's Japanese, and she wanted to move back to Japan. So I've lived in Japan for 12 years. And during the 12 years, I've really focused on my art. I have lots of free time here to do what I want to do. So I've had a lot of great times here, and I just enjoy doing my art, basically.
Okay, so what was your first encounter with art, or what was the first piece of art? Maybe it's a piece of music, maybe it's a painting, a sculpture, a piece of architecture. What was your first encounter, and how did it impact you?
My first memory of art, anyway, was my father worked in television. He used to make TV commercials and in the Boston area, and I was about 5 years old. And there was some kind of, I forget what his job was, but there was a local celebrity on TV, and he would take your name, like my name is James, and he would write the name James, and he'd make a picture out of it. So my father brought this home for me. He opened up the scroll or whatever of this paper and it had my name on it, but it was, I forget what the picture was. It was probably an animal or something, but it really stuck with me. I mean, it wasn't like a formal piece of art. It wasn't like in an art museum or anything, but that's the first, conscious memory of seeing art that kind of impressed me. And uh, it kind of was an indication or something that art is kind of a unique or special, gave me a special feeling. It just wasn't like, a regular painting of a house or something. It was something really unique for me. So that's my first memory, probably.
Yeah, that's great. That's really unique to you. So your preferable medium of executing art is mainly for the channel of painting.
Hmm.
Um, what did you find so attractive in the painterly arts?
Uh, the thing I really enjoy about painting is you can just constantly change the image, paint over it. If you go to any art gallery or art museum anytime, you'll see the underpainting. You'll see, their mistakes or they change it somehow. So sometimes the paint is kind of transparent and you can see the underpainting. You can do the same thing with drawings, I think, but I think with painting, it's a little more richer. There's more layers. I think the layers is important and also the three-dimensional surface. So I don't get that so much from printmaking or, digital art or illustration, but like, oil paintings or acrylic paintings, I really enjoy the surface, the texture of the surface. So I'm usually looking, if I go to an art gallery or museum, I usually don't look straight on. I kind of go to the side. I want to see the lumps and the bumps and all the textures going on. That's really cool for me.
Yeah, I find that very interesting because when I looked at a Picasso or a Van Gogh, it's like there's something to what you said, that a blank canvas, a flat surface like a canvas is not really two-dimensional like we try to think of it or we perceive it with our natural faculties, but it's actually a three-dimensional kind of surface. Because when I went to a museum, which I won't mention its name, and a very astute institution with renowned. Uh, and I saw the pictures, and it was the first time I saw, like, if you know the very famous Jewish artist, Marc
Of course.
Chagall, and I saw Picasso, and I saw both their kind of techniques, the brush strokes, and you see the amount of paint, like the impasto. And I saw the Van Gogh Van Gogh, whichever pronunciation pleases you more.
Mhm.
The more kind of the highfalutin pronunciation, or the more the layman's plebeian pronunciation, Van Gogh. But I saw those three examples, and then I saw a Degas, you know, a beautiful Degas, which was made with the crayons essentially. You know those, but they are very worn out due to the passing of the passage of time, and they got that very austere, very mystical kind of feeling. So I wonder what attracts you about actually looking at the painting or any piece of art.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned Chagall, so I think 2 years ago I went to Aomori, which is in the northern part of Japan, and they have a great museum up there. I recommend it. But they have this massive, I think it was, I forget how many pieces, 2 or 3 giant Chagall backdrops for a ballet. And I've always liked his work when I was younger, but I kind of lost contact with his stuff or whatever. But seeing these pieces was really fantastic, and I was just amazed at the scale of his work. So in that case, I didn't notice so much the texture, but it was just the overall, it changed the atmosphere of the room or something. It was just really fantastic. So even though the painting was probably, I'm guessing, 60 years old, I don't know when it was made, it still affected me greatly. So I think that's one thing that's really great, is you can look at a piece of art. I've seen art from 3,000 years ago, and someone made like a little bear out of, I don't know what, resin or something. I don't know what it was made out of, but it was really cute, and it had like a certain sense of humor to it, I thought. And I could really understand the person's, thought process or something when they made it. So someone from so many years ago can still affect you, or for me anyway, affect my feelings. So I think that's one thing great about art. It can really affect your feelings, usually for me in a positive way. Sometimes people think art is scary. Sometimes people have told me that one of my drawings was very scary. I don't want to see that drawing, or I don't want to be near that drawing. It's too scary, which could be a good thing also. But usually I think it affects people in a positive way that makes them feel kind of happy, or just makes them feel better about their life. That's why people have like your painting in the background. I see the painting in your background. That makes me feel good. I can see the colors. It's dark, and I see the nice, vibrant.
Yeah, my mother painted that. Yeah.
It's nice. I like it.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel good. you're thousands of miles away, but I still, seeing your painting or your mother's painting makes me feel good. So I think that's the ultimate thing for art. It makes people feel good, or it changes their emotions, maybe.
Yeah. Do you think like there's a whole kind of temple dedicated to Mark Rothko's kind of I don't know what's the name, the Temple of Worldly Peace, a Unification Church. I don't know what's the
Okay.
official name, but I'm sure you know vaguely what I'm talking about.
Huh?
Yeah.
I haven't been there in person, but I know.
Yeah, that kind of a meditative space. So does it matter if it was if the paintings were hung at a mud hut in some remote island? Would it matter if it was the Gauguin Museum or the Prado Museum? Would it matter if it was on the Louvre or in some remote uninhabited place? Would the effect be the same, or would it be different?
Good question. I don't think it would matter for me because I've seen Picasso prints like or in people's bathrooms or like in their, you know, foyer or something. And it pulls me in. So I'm kind of still impressed by his work. So it didn't matter the location. I've seen art in Japanese hotels. In Akita, there was a hotel I stayed at, and I guess the owner of the hotel was an art collector. So in the lobby, he had like real, I thought, authentic, really good art that he had collected from Europe and maybe Japan, also different places. And even though it was in a hotel lobby, I was still really impressed. Maybe it was just as good as any art museum. And also temples, temples in Japan, Buddhist temples or Shinto, well, I guess more Buddhist. The artwork there is really fantastic. In the countryside, especially, I'll see paintings of horses or something in temples, and that's probably better than any art museum. I think it serves a different function, maybe, I don't know, but it just impressed me. I saw lots of great art in places I didn't expect, I guess. So that
Yeah,
answers your-
but let's try to challenge a notion that art. Well, okay. Firstly, let's try to get in what you try to do with your art,
Mhm.
actually, in your everyday practice. I'm sure that you draw or paint at least 4 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
Like that's the general mantra,
Mhm.
which I got from the people like Van Gogh, like Picasso. They have a certain regiment.
Sure.
I remember Edvard Munch wrote a very nice treatise about why he couldn't live without coffee and cigarettes.
Uh-huh.
So, is there something that you have to do, a mantra which you have to recite every day in order to be able to get to the place where you can work or start working?
Uh, Not really. Um, I had a good teacher at museum school. His saying was, what was the word? No art, just start, or something like that. Don't think about the art, just get to it. You don't need inspiration, I think, which I still use to this day. I use that. Like if I'm feeling lazy, or I usually don't feel lazy. I'm pretty self-motivated, I think. But yeah, I eat breakfast, maybe in the morning, I watch the news, and then I start working. And then later in the afternoon when I'm working, usually I can't stop, around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I'm really into the painting, so I can't stop. So it's kind of addictive, I think. I think once you start doing it on a regular basis, you'll do it more and more, I think. So I don't really need anything to start. Coffee's good, sure. I need coffee, but yeah, that's about it for me.
Yeah, we have all those kinds of stigmas about the suffering artist, you know, the kind of grisly persona, the outcast,
Mhm.
then you know, the kind of guy you wouldn't want to have your kids around. No, I'm joking. But what do you think about that premise that like Nietzsche said
Uh,
that an artist needs to suffer in order to think or whatever, or to actually pronounce or be able to come up with an original idea or cohesive, produce a type of cohesiveness and roundedness in his life. What do you think of that idea that an artist needs to suffer in order to create, whatever that means?
yeah, I don't think artists need to suffer. I do think artists, real artists, are outcasts. I think, I don't know which comes first. I don't know if they're outcast and they become artists, or they're just artists. So, making art usually is a very solitary thing. You're in your studio all day. So you're not really a sociable person. Usually, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I think, I think if you're like a well-balanced, normal person, maybe you're not going to be an artist. Maybe you'll be a graphic designer, or you'll be an architect. That's my image, or a photographer. I think painters generally are kind of like writers. They're kind of maybe, yeah, they're outcasts a little bit. Not totally, but to a certain extent. They're not totally normal. It's like being a rock star in a way, a musician. If you pick that life, there's a reason you pick that life. Something about your DNA or something makes you a little different, I think. But as far as having to suffer, I don't agree with that. I think, I don't know too many happy artists though. I don't know artists who are really happy. Like, "Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy." But I think also, like musicians, their life is kind of, if they're famous at all, their life is magnified. So if you're a regular business guy, or you go to the lumber yard every day or something, no one's, your life isn't going to be under a microscope. But if you're like Johnny Depp or something, people are going to know every aspect of your life, unfortunately. So I think the bad parts are just magnified. The good parts are kind of
Well,
forgotten.
once you purchase an entire island, I think we are entitled to be privy to your to your, I don't know, to your, at least your some of your daily routine,
Uh-huh.
or we don't have to surveil every step you take, but we are entitled to be privy to a bit of your life,
Yeah.
There was a sketch by uh, by how do you call it, a satire show, a parody show, which I don't.
In America?
The no, it's an Israeli show.
Okay.
So the people, they gave their gold, all their gold to the king.
Mhm.
So it's a sketch. It's one of the sketches in the show, on the show, and in return he urinated on them,
Okay.
and they say, and all the people gathered, and they say, we are waiting, and one other person comes to the scene and says, why are you here? We are waiting for the king to urinate on us.
Okay.
And then they wait and they wait, and then the king urinates on the person that came later. and he was so excited and thrilled, and so you can understand the notion that maybe we have the right to know a little bit about people who are in the public eye, or in the public sphere at least.
Yeah, actually, I just saw an interview with a science fiction writer or fantasy writer, Harlan Ellison, I think his name is. And he kind of said the opposite. I agree with you, I think, to a certain extent, but he said the opposite. He said, when I write a book, if you buy the book, that's all you get is the book. You don't get my life, or you don't get to criticize me or anything. You just get the book. That's it. So I can understand that philosophy, but I understand also like celebrities. I lived in New York. I would see celebrities all day long. So I'd usually left them alone, but there were some celebrities who I just knew from like a childhood where I had to talk to them. And I realized I was probably, being inconvenient for them or whatever, but I couldn't help myself. So I understand to some extent, you feel connected to celebrities or.
Yeah, I don't want to bother celebrities. I don't care. You have to go through so many hoops and channels. Okay, you can take the risk that someone is going to be nice, that a celebrity is going to be nice to you and approachable, and will will have a chit chat with you, or even take a photo or whatever. But it's like, I don't want to do that, because it's gratuitous. That person has a 100,000 selfies with a 100,000 other people. Why do I need to be amongst that sea of people? He is an individual. I'm not going to, I'm not going to put myself on the altar as an offering. No, he's not a god. He's just a human being, and I wouldn't know what to say to that guy, except for making some nice comment, or I don't know, or gesturing in some proper fashion. I don't know. But on that point, do you think that art is sometimes a little overappreciated or underappreciated, depending on what how we look at it? So I know that generally art is appreciated more through the medium, or the medium of television and films, because when I look at a film or any movie, I don't see it through the eyes of the director, because I know that the director is influenced by the visual arts. Film is 100% influenced by the visual arts, the plastic arts. And I see the use, I see, when I look at France, I don't see the, I don't see the Montmartre Boulevard. I see Cézanne, for example. When I look at the Black Swan with Natalie Portman, I don't see, a prima ballerina. I see Toulouse-Lautrec and Degas. So people don't know that the visual stimuli comes from the art. So how can we encourage a greater appreciation for the arts? How can we imbue the youth with that knowledge, that fundamental knowledge that art can express everything, uh, can penetrate every fiber of your being, can actually influence your life and change your life.
Yeah, difficult question. I think basically the parents are a big influence. Um, you know, if art is important to your parents, you know, I think you get a lot of that. I don't know where else you get it from. The film thing you're talking about, I think maybe when I was a kid, I would see films or I would see any kind of something art form, and I didn't understand where it came from, the influence or something like that. So I think you have a very rich background of art, so you can appreciate if you see a visual thing, you understand where it comes from. I'm still at, you know, still I'll see things, you know, I'm 59 years old, I'll see a painting or I'll see a TV show or a movie. Then now as an adult, I realize where that came from. When I was a little kid, I didn't understand. I thought it was just a movie or just a whatever, just a TV show. I took it at the surface value. I didn't really understand the artistic influence of it or something, I guess. I don't know, but I think the parents are a big part of your appreciation of anything, art or literature. Um, I don't know, I think my parents really encouraged me to appreciate the arts. I know their parents don't really encourage the art or any kind of you know, literature or anything, and the kids kind of don't really care about it. So I think many people don't really care about art. They don't care about it. They think it's boring or they think it's a different, I'm not sure. They think it's doesn't apply to their life or something. I've known many people like that. So I think in a way, if you go to art school, you definitely have a different point of view from someone maybe who doesn't go to an art school or someone who doesn't go to museums on a regular basis. I guess that's important. I don't know. I can't really answer the question that well, but
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have a direct answer or a clear-cut
yeah.
solution for any of this. We're slowly starting to lose our grasp and our ability to think in humanistic terms, I think. And it's very, it puts a damper on our ways of thinking. Um, of course, we lose art and we lose the images to time. You know, the humanity is not too keen to preserve a lot of things. They are just they're just they're just stuff that fades away, and we don't care about that. We don't tend to preserve. That's why you see a lot of articles pop up on the news where a 60, 90-year-old grandmother pulls out from some cellar or not a cellar. What's the basement? Pulls out from the basement some Gauguin or Picasso that's been lost to time. So yeah, that or the Nazis. That's those are the two choices.
Okay.
It's either the Nazis or a 90-year-old grandmother.
Or some painting that's been painted over. I saw some article recently about some painting that had been painted over. The background was painted over black in the 1700s. So the people at the museum, whatever, removed the blackness, the background, and they found this beautiful original landscape it was a copy of Mona Lisa. And so they said that the background was a very important, I think, similar colors to the original Mona Lisa, because it was copied from the Mona Lisa back at I think the same time period. So it's a good historical reference. So sometimes paintings are hidden under other paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it was determined who was the actual artist that copied it. I don't know. I didn't look into it because it was weird. It's you know, you said about the the art in the hotels in Japan that
Mhm.
they have actual legitimate art collections. And the Mona Lisa was hung uh, in the King Louis the lavatory.
Oh, really?
Yes,
That's
that's
interesting.
well, at least the legend says it. It
Sure, I'm
was,
sure.
yes, but
There's lots of stories like that.
yeah, but it might as well have been hung on the lavatory walls or whatever. So drifting away from the Mona Lisa and more maybe to inventiveness and technology, which far more interested and piqued Leonardo's curiosity. I can call him. We are on first name basis, you know, me and Leo. No,
Okay.
no. Leonardo da
Why
Vinci,
not?
of course, yes. So with the with the advent of technology taking over, you know, the NFTs and the GIFs and the different types of digital arts, illustrations, concept arts, and all that Razumit has. How do you put yourself as a traditional painter? When I say traditional, I mean, you know, paint on canvas, layering, construction, composition, brush strokes, all that good stuff. How do you try to grapple uh, with science fiction and technology and advancement? Um, how do you try to portray that or to put that on canvas, which is traditional form medium?
Yeah. So I'm really interested in like maybe generally speaking, industrial design or concept art in movies or things like SpaceX. I see SpaceX. I was watching NASA live broadcast this morning, and you just see all the shapes of the International Space Station, all the tubing and wiring and everything like that. And that's for a practical purpose, but to me, it looks very like art to me in a way. It's very colorful and composition is very cool and everything. But for my art, I think, you know, it's kind of a traditional format in the sense that it's paint on canvas. But maybe I'm trying to create something which someone else can interpret and make it into a 3D object, or maybe they can influence someone else. I do my part as I create what I want to create, and I try to take it as far as I can take it. But maybe someone else can look at it and be influenced by it and do a um, 3D modeling or something, or turn it into a video or something. I don't know. I'm kind of open to that idea. I kind of just do my thing, you know, two-dimensional. I'm not really good with three-dimensional, even though we were talking about 3 dimensions, and the paintings can definitely be three-dimensional, the lumps and everything. But yeah, I, you know, when I was in art school, the concept of painting is dead was always reoccurring. Like, you know, in the whatever 50s, 60s, 70s, painting's dead, and there's something new coming along. But I think painting will always be there because it's such a personal thing. I think there's lots of great computer art and but I think for me personally, there's something missing. Um, for me, I wouldn't get as much satisfaction creating something maybe in 3D or with software. I respect the people that can do that. I think it's really great. But for me, I have to kind of do drawing or painting. And plus I'm too old. I'm more old. I'm older generation. The young kids can do all the computer stuff. I can't catch up with them. A 15-year-old knows a lot more about technical stuff than I do. So I don't know, maybe their stuff influences me. If I watch a computer game or if I watch some concept artist or something, I can be influenced by that. I don't know.
Yeah, so you try to settle, not to settle, to bridge the gap between traditional methods and in a kind of ever-changing, ever-advancing chromatic autocracy that we are living in. The kind of concrete jungle that just threatens to cave in on us each in a given day. But emotionally and psychologically, and also perhaps physically even. But how do you convey, or before we get to that, maybe has Japan influenced the type of themes and images that you try to create in your art, or was
Yeah,
it?
definitely. So the biggest difference. Have you ever been to Japan?
No, I have not, but like Ray Charles said, I have Japan on my mind. Yes.
Excellent. So living in New York City, the architecture, when I lived there anyway, it's different now a little, but everything was just basically, concrete and granite and steel and up and down.
Yeah, perpendicular.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, if you come to Japan, the first thing I noticed anyway, the architecture is very, very different. Lots of strange angles and things are just like, who thought of that? Like, is that, sometimes I think someone just, like I saw that it was in Shibuya. I saw this building and I wondered if someone actually designed that or if someone just kind of improvised the structure because it was so weird. I can't really remember exactly the details, but it just struck me as so completely alien to me as in compared to American architecture. So just walking down the street, I'm highly influenced by all the architecture and shapes and the kanji, which is the Chinese characters for Japanese writing. Seeing those things, the font is very different of the composition in billboards or ads you see. Store signs, the awnings in stores have Japanese writing on them. So it's kind of like living in Blade Runner. Blade Runner isn't, maybe Blade Runner is a little outdated. Tokyo is maybe further up there. It's more out there. It's more futuristic in some aspects. But yeah, Japan's definitely a big influence. And also the language, the music, the food.
Yeah, it's a more steampunk metropolis type futuristic city. Yeah.
Yeah, the fashion, I don't know about where you live, but the fashion is very, very different than America. Like just the average person, they wear leather biker jackets, they have silver hair, they have leather pants. I think like 50% of the population in Japan, they look like they're in a rock band or some kind of cyberpunk thing or something. It's very out there. And these are just very average people. As far as they have day jobs or they're students, they're not, as far as I know, they're not celebrities, but their dress is very fantastic. And if you go to Kyoto, the fashion is even more outrageous. Colors are different, the clothes people wear. So yeah, it's big.
Yeah, the traditional capital of Japan.
Right.
The seat of power. Um, about the aesthetics of Japan and Blade Runner, and it's a kind of a transformation that happened. I'm sure you've heard at least of the book of Edward Said, Orientalism, or maybe vaguely heard of it, but when you actually study art history and you study all those types of theoreticians and historians and what there's a lot of types of people, archaeologists, symbologists. Um, there's I can't remember what's the name of that. Okay, it doesn't matter. Whatever Carl Jung was, that's the word for it. Maybe anthropologist is a good word for it. Yeah, sort of folklorist or anthropologist or whatever. Um, and that kind of a melding between Western and Eastern sensibilities and aesthetics. Do you think, because it straddles along the lines of the mystic of the Orient, or whatever, some title of a 30s detective novel, but actually the allure of the Orient, as opposed to the plastic veneer, saturated, atheistic in some ways of the Western Hemisphere. Do you think there is a compromise to be had?
Yeah, good question. So I think one of the things I realized when I came over here was the image of Japan in America is very distorted. So in some cases, there's a lot, the kind of cliche is that it's traditional Japan mixing with, Western. Um, but it's very different. I can't really explain how. Maybe there is a lot of influence, but I think I don't know really. It's difficult. I think my big thing was when I was a teenager, I was into David Bowie. So David Bowie, the haircut and everything, I didn't really realize, once again, maybe as a young person, I think a lot of that is influenced by like Japanese theater, and I found out he was big into Japan and Japanese culture.
More of the kabuki variant, yeah.
Yeah. So
Not
it's kind
not
of back,
yeah, not the high culture, the Noah theater, yeah.
right. Okay. Yep. So I think it's kind of back and forth, maybe. So I think New York is very influenced by Japan because there's so many Japanese people. So yeah, sushi restaurant, kaiten sushi, you have ramen restaurants, other Japanese things, Japanese art, of course, Japanese cinemas, Japanese music. When I lived in New York, there was a lot of Japanese underground bands, which are not heard of really in Japan, like Merzbow and Acid Mother's Temple and all these other kind of avant-garde Japanese bands. I'm thinking I go to Japan, it's going to be like this weird avant-garde world, but it's really not. It's very kind of wholesome, lots of, very family oriented. I think family is very important in Japan. It is every place, but really it's kind of really evident, I think, in Japan. So that part's very traditional. But then, many Japanese people are very, very open-minded and they think differently than Americans. Some Japanese are the cliche, once again, they're very shy and conservative, but sometimes they think differently than Americans. So I think it's give and take, I think. But I kind of got
Mainly,
I lost focus of your question. Go Menasai, sorry. But
As it's fine. It's fine. I don't know how to say it's fine in Japanese. But,
Daijo,
huh?
Daijo, Daijo.
Yeah, it's a variant of what I'm trying to say. Yes.
Okay,
Daijoubu.
okay.
No, that's very offensive way of saying it. No, but I more wanted to, you know, maybe I tried to, maybe I didn't orient the question, or I haven't phrased the question properly.
Okay. So the allure of the Orient, is that
I
kind
was,
of the thing?
yeah, I was aiming more for the aesthetic side,
Okay.
maybe less of the cultural side,
Mhm.
more of the simplistic kind of mindset, you know, that I don't know if that's a prejudiced kind of thinking, maybe, but I'm tempting to say that it's not.
Mhm.
The kind of aesthetic is more simplified, more clean. The kind of usage of the usage of paint to describe, to depict different different natural, um, to depict nature. Yeah,
Mhm.
different natural elements is different. The sensibilities, and like you said, that one woman that said that the picture or the painting made her feel scared.
Mhm.
Um,
Some guy
so
said it, American guy.
a guy, okay. Okay, now you're changing your story. No, I'm
Sorry.
joking. Uh,
Yeah, maybe
but
I've, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You can interrupt. You can interject whenever you feel like it. Um,
So I
do
know
you
what you mean.
feel? Yeah, do you feel that kind of clash? Does it get any place or worthy place in your mind when you try to when you paint?
Oh, I see. Yeah. For me, not really. I don't think, I think the stuff you're talking about, like simplistic or kind of minimalistic Japanese art, I think maybe that's more traditional art. And I think there's many people who appreciate that in Japan and in America. That's kind of a cliched image, maybe, or traditional image. I think younger people, the art that I see from Japanese younger people is kind of more, definitely not traditional, and maybe it's not even influenced by Western art. I'm not sure. It's kind of very, for lack of a better word, kind of really crazy art and just really eccentric art or something, maybe. I'm not sure, but I really like it. So a lot of the art in Japan I was never aware of until I moved here. So if you go into the countryside, there's many art museums, many great art museums, in Guma or Torchigi, that you'll see Japanese art, which is not what you think traditional, for me anyway. It's not traditional Japanese art. Um, it's more modern. Uh, has different influences. But yeah, I think if you go to the museums outside of Tokyo, maybe Tokyo too, but outside of Tokyo especially, you'll see many like Japanese oil paintings, which I never saw in America. You know, I've seen, if you go to the Met in New York, you'll see many, wood print or ink on paper, or, kanji, art, traditional Japanese arts. But well, since I moved to Japan, I've seen lots of Japanese art which maybe has never been shown outside of Japan. I'm not sure, but maybe it's oil painting, very thick, heavy painting, lots of different stuff. So does the aesthetic influence me? I don't think so, but who knows, maybe. I think subconsciously everything influences you, or lots of things that you're not aware of.
Yes. Yeah, I find that a lot of people, dreams have different effects, and it's very problematic to talk in empirical terms about dreams, and try to actually frame them as something, as one thing, and to codify it and to build a narrative, or or to take on meaning for dreams. But I find that because I have naturally I have a great imagination and stuff like this, and I feel that science fiction, someone who applies actual science into a work of fiction, it takes a lot of imaginative power, shall we say. It takes someone who was very affiliated, was very comfortable in talking about science and terminology and scientific astronomical jargon. Um, not that that it's a bad thing; it's a great thing if someone can do that. But do you feel that you're trying to depict maybe your uh, maybe your paintings are more geared to the type of maybe the more physical, mechanical side of the science, like different blueprints and chart and heavy machinery?
Do you think my art is more, it's more influence? Yeah, I think I'm really influenced by
I don't know.
schematic.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's more influenced currently by, I think, any kind of machinery, heavy industry type stuff, big industrial buildings, either in New York or Japan, that I saw or influenced by. And I really love anything to do with, like aerodynamics, or even like tractors. In Japan, I'm walking down the street, I'll see tractors digging up the earth, or plows or cranes or anything. The mechanics of it, I try to, the hydraulics or something, I try to look at and try to get influenced by. So yeah, this actual like, and I'm trying to kind of expand my vocabulary, literally. So I'm trying to read more science fiction books. So usually the science fiction that I'm familiar with is more from movies or TV when I was a kid, and as an adult more from. So I'm trying to actually, usually I read history books or nonfiction books, biography, but recently I've been trying to read more kind of, hardcore science fiction books more, and also technical books.
Yeah.
Once again, by like, Apollo space missions.
What's your favorite science fiction movie, if I may ask?
Difficult question. I think probably not so much now, but when I first saw the first Star Wars movie, when I was like 14 years old, I was impressed, because before that, and then Alien movie, I still love. It's very kind of dirty. Before then, everything science fiction was silver and clean and pristine, I think, looking. But Star Wars, and especially Star Wars and Alien, and also maybe TV shows like Space 1999 and UFO, Gary Anderson stuff, or Jerry Anderson stuff. There was more like a Warren effect. It had everything had like dirt on it, and there was little details. Everything had details, little doors, and all this intense, attention to detail. So that was really impressive. So I think that influences me. If I look at a painting, maybe I say it's not dirty enough. I have to put another wash on it, or I have to put more lines or more detail. And then maybe I'll sit on the painting for 6 months and, oh, there's not enough detail. Oh, there's not enough lines. So I have to go back. So I think a lot of that has to do with
Yeah.
science movies.
When I
But
first
especially-
encountered your painting, sorry did I cut you off?
It's okay, no problem.
When the first artist that came up to in my head when I saw your art for the first time, I don't know if you will know this guy. Is called Francis Picabia.
Mhm.
So I just saw, I immediately thought of him like the Freudian
Okay.
monochromatic technocrat, the lifeless,
Life is a good word.
the lifeless kind of cynical artists, which I had enough of them.
Okay.
I had enough of the preaching. I read Walter Benjamin's I forgot what's the name of the book in English, but I'm sure you know it. It talks about the multiplication of images. That images in the modern world are just a product like cereal boxes and laundry mats and all that stuff.
Like Andy Warhol, maybe, or not?
What?
Are you talking like in the area of Andy Warhol or?
I'm talking. He's a theoretician, is a philosopher called Walter Benjamin.
Okay.
Very famous. Wrote a book about art, about the commercializing of art and images in the modern world. But it straddles the line, the Warholian line. Yes. So it wasn't an insult when I said that I saw some similarities between what Picabia did and what you are doing. But could you explain actually, because it's very interesting what you're doing. It's not like a chart. It's not like Marcel Duchamp, putting those mannequins in a row and have them. It's not like it's not like a Japanese washing machine instructions. No, it's not. It's not that level of cynicism. It hasn't reached that kind of level of cynicism. But I found it interesting that you also include a type of scale. The scale when you put next to a picture, next to a painting.
Okay.
That one. You put it to scale and it's color coded.
Mhm.
And multicolored, and I found that very interesting. It's like a it's a sort of meta element to that picture. So can you explain a little bit about what you're trying to do in those depictions, and why do you include things that actually come from the real world, that actual architects and designers and mechanics use?
Mhm. Well, I can say that I'm not really sure what my paintings mean or why I do them, kind of thing. I originally was just doing geometric art, and I was interested in that. And then at some point I arranged some spheres and things, shapes, and it actually looked kind of futuristic and kind of like architecture. So I think that um, started to make me think about what kind of narrative or story I was trying to tell. And I was trying to really consciously develop some kind of narrative, like the painting behind me. It's like there's a landscape and it's kind of going into the horizon line, and there are no people, so it's kind of like lifeless. So why is it lifeless? What happened to the people? Is it deserted? Was there a war? Is it just not finished yet? So I'm trying to always think, but I haven't really developed fully where it's going or whatever.
You
So
have
there's a
the kind of Kandinsky cadence,
uh-huh.
but you have the color palette of Paul Klee.
Okay.
I would say I don't know, just from observation of
I think
yeah.
the color palette is definitely influenced. I changed my paints about 7 years ago. So now I use an Italian paint, Prima, which I really love because they have lots of like metallic colors like this. What is this one? This one is you know, platinum white or whatever. So the color palette has definitely changed and it's very bright. Maybe I try to tone it down sometime. So when I do those like scales you're talking about, the geometric little blocks, they're very bright when I do them. So sometimes I put a wash of just like muddy water over it from cleaning my paintbrushes, and that kind of dulls it down. So once again, I want to go back to maybe, the Star Wars or whatever alien thing where everything is kind of worn down a little bit. So that's one direction I have to really work on. As far as the color strips on the side you were talking about, I think that came from, as you can tell, probably, I use lots of masking tape on my paintings because I like a hard edge line. So when I peeled it off, I realized that there's excess paint. So then I kind of started making the strips in different colors. And then I use it as a compositional tool. If I have like a big white form, like this big white thing in the background, you can kind of see it. So it needs more detail. So I'll use the tape and I'll move it around on the canvas. And I said, oh, looks good there. And then I kind of mask it out. And so it kind of helps me, in the process. I don't know.
Yeah,
That
when
explains.
when I look at that's great. Yeah, it's a great technique. Very, very simple, straightforward. Um, yeah, I like to do I like to take shortcuts also. I don't like I don't like to actually go with a ruler and try to make out the proportions and to portion out each section and to construct it.
Right.
No, I can't do
Yeah.
that because I'm
Yeah.
also I'm an illustrator. I'm not a painter. I like graphite. I like the traditional Japanese pen. I have one here, which is
Okay.
not out of but I have another one that I use. This is I haven't opened that one, but when I look at that painting that you have in the background, I also feel a lot of feelings like you felt for it. The painting that my mother drew, which is very kind of you. And when I look at those kinds of paintings, I can't feel. I think back of I had a paperback edition of H.G. Wells's The Time Machine.
Mhm.
And I see a lot of the Asimov books and Stanislas Lem, if you've heard of him. Yeah, great Russian science fiction writer and novelist. And those they are so similar to what you are trying to achieve. That kind of 60s
Okay.
UFO combined with American golden age optimism, post-war kind of
Okay.
um, shiny bright future depended on heavy industries and good-hearted folk. Yes.
Okay.
Uh, what do you feel ultimately? What is the message? Even though you said you don't know what you're doing with your art and
Yeah.
your paintings, actually, what is the channel that you're trying to communicate with? But humor me, okay? What is the general message that you're trying to give out or project or that emanate from your pictures, paintings?
Difficult. I guess the message, I guess, is more my personal message is I'm just going to keep going and I just want to keep experimenting with my images and I just, constantly change. So I don't know. Difficult question. What's my message? I guess I hope you enjoy the paintings when you're if you see my paintings in person, I hope there's some communication. Whenever I see someone's art, I don't really think too much what it means or what the message is. I know I enjoy the image. Like once again, your mother's painting, I really, even looking at it, I'm looking at it right now, the contrast between the blacks and the flower, I think those are flowers, right? And so it communicates to me. So I'm not thinking about the message. I'm thinking that I really enjoy it, and I really like it. Oh, it's bigger than I thought. Okay, wow. Yeah, it's bigger than it's much more impressive in size. It's bigger. It looks smaller up on the wall. Nice, very nice. So
It's very special in my opinion, not just because I'm a biased source,
uh,
but I think it's really special. The kind of blackened
yeah,
monochromatic background and the beautiful Alice in Wonderland kind of
okay.
palette flowers,
Hmm.
and that you can feel the beautiful textures and the vitality of
Hmm.
the sun actually influencing the growth of the flowers. So I like it very much. And you can actually see the texture, like you said,
Oh yeah.
see the
Uh-huh.
texture.
I'm
So
looking at the texture, the black background, or
yeah, it's beautiful. It's deep naval blue. It's
uh-huh.
not black. Yeah,
Right.
it's a deep, yeah,
Nice.
ultramarine. Yeah, kind of blue.
So I guess
Okay. Yes.
um, so real quick, so maybe my message is, I guess, maybe, or my philosophy is, I really enjoy futuristic images, music, movies. So my output in the art world maybe is, something to do with futurism and the future of, our society and art. Lots of art, abstract art doesn't really talk to me as far as where we're going. It's just kind of, static art, and I enjoy it, but maybe it doesn't really talk to me as far as on a philosophical level or something. So maybe I'm thinking about the future, what's going to happen in the future, um, with architecture, art, music, everything. I don't know. But anyway, but once again, your mother's painting, I really enjoyed it. So it communicated to me, I don't care about the message. There's something about it that really is
Yes.
different. So that's why it's good, in my
Yes.
opinion.
I feel that it's very innovative. I think just the usage of the background.
Mhm.
The background as an actual as an actual backdrop
Mhm.
to the object. The object of the subject of the painting is the flowers. It's not the background, and it's not the leaves or the stems of the of the plant itself. It's of course the flowers, but the usage of the backdrop is beautiful in my opinion. It's the night sky, you know, it's the way the sky looks, very dark, very but you still have that little flicker, that aura of light that you can see beyond the layer of the atmosphere. Um, there's a question that I ask every guest on my show, on my podcast. It doesn't matter what their background is. It doesn't matter from which field or occupation. I always ask that question. Okay, so are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. And this is a very terse question, but I think it's pertinent, and it's the ultimate answer that we have to actually face, that everyone has to face, in my opinion. What is the meaning of art? Why is art useful?
Okay. For me, the meaning of art is something that changes the way you think and maybe changes your life, hopefully for the better, I think. The artists that I love make me see the world in a way I had never seen it before. So maybe it changes my point of view, or it makes me realize there's more options in life and life is much richer than I had originally thought. So I think that's the meaning of art for me personally.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Jim, for appearing as a guest on my show, agreeing to, and it has been a pleasure. And I think that maybe we can talk another time about science fiction movies, maybe.
Excellent. Yeah, I enjoy your channel very much. I've seen a few of your videos. I'm going to continue watching them, but your guests are really good. And
Thank
so it's good eclectic choice of the guests that you pick. So I think it's really enjoyable. And I enjoy your poetry reading. The Blake poetry reading I watched this morning, so I enjoyed it. So
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'll try to put up some more. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for this
Yeah.
opportunity, really. Thank you.
Thank you.